Hi, I'm Troy from Studio 33 Guitar Lessons. The video you're about to watch is an excerpt from one of our courses called the Kickstarter series. Kickstarter is a multi-level course designed for beginner all the way to intermediate and advanced. If you like this video, you can get the full course at our website, studio33guitarlessons.com. Also, make sure you click the like button and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss our next video. Thanks for watching. Now we're going to look at bar chords. The bar chords are without a doubt one of the most frustrating things to learn on the guitar, especially as a beginner. But you'll soon find out that they're an essential part of playing guitar, and it's crucial for you to know them. If you take your time and work on learning these chords, you'll soon be able to do them, and you'll find that it'll open up a whole new world for you for guitar. When I first started playing guitar, I avoided bar chords for a long time because they're difficult to play. There was lots of times where I would look at a song that would have a chord like C sharp minor, and I would think, I can't play that song, and I would just move on. Once I learned how to play bar chords, I found them to be extremely useful, and you will as well. As you progress through your guitar playing, you'll find that there are a number of different types of bar chords. In this lesson, we're going to look at the two main shapes of bar chords. These will be the ones that will be the most useful to you as a beginner. The first shape will have its root note on the low E string. The second shape will have its root note on the A string. Each of those chords will have a major and a minor variation. So we'll break these chords up into 4 different videos and focus on one at a time. Let's start by defining what exactly a bar chord is. Earlier in this course, we learned how to play an F major chord, and I talked about how we use our index finger to bar across those 2 high strings. A bar chord is simply when you're using one finger to play more than one note at a time. This first type of bar chord is the more difficult one to play, but it's probably the easier one to understand conceptually. So we'll start with this one so that you can see how bar chords are made and the theory behind them. Let's start with an E major chord. Now, if you remember from our previous lessons, E major chord is played like this: middle finger on the 2nd fret, ring finger right below it, and then the index finger next string down, just back 1 fret. All 6 strings together gives us the E major chord. For the E major chord, the root note, of course, is E. And with this chord, the lowest E string is our root note. So we call this a E string root note chord. When we played a G chord, like this, our root note is also on the E string. So this would also be called an E string root note chord. So that will be the case with these bar chords. As we move the bar chord shape up the neck, our root note will move up the neck as well. But the root note will always be on that E string. When we play this E major chord, we can allow these E strings to ring open. But if we try and move this chord shape up the neck and play the same shape with the open strings, it sounds off because we've moved this group of notes, but we're keeping these open strings, and they don't match up anymore with these notes. So let's take our E chord again, and let's try holding down these notes with different fingers. So instead of using your 1st, 2nd, and 3rd fingers, let's put our ring finger up here, pinky below it, and then our middle finger down here. So same notes, just different fingers. Now you can imagine this index finger is basically back here on what we would call fret number 0. So kind of an imaginary fret back here. As we move this chord shape up the neck, if we move our index finger as well, now that index finger can hold down these notes and allow us to play those strings. When we played that E shape and we moved it up here, we couldn't play that chord anymore because these open strings didn't match up with these notes. But if our index finger comes along with them and plays these notes, then those strings match up. Because now all of the notes have moved up the neck together. Let's go back to that E shape. So holding down our E chord this way, if we move this up just 1 fret and we move our index finger up 1 fret, we now have an F major chord. Now previously we had learned the F major chord and our index finger was down here, but you'll notice the other fingers are all in the same shape. And we didn't play this low E string because we didn't want an E note. So now when we play with our index finger up here, we're changing that into an F note so that it matches up with the other notes. So this is our first bar chord shape. Our root note is on the E string being held down with our index finger. And that chord shape can be moved anywhere on the neck. And whatever note our index finger is on is the root note of that chord. That's the great thing about bar chords. Once you know one of them, then you know all of them. So this is an F major chord. If we move that up 1 fret, that becomes an F sharp major. If I move it up 1 more, that becomes a G major. As long as we know what note our index finger is on, then we know what the chord is. This is the same concept as using a capo, like we learned in the last lesson. When we put our capo on the neck, we're changing the pitch of the open strings. So when we have a G major chord that we move up 2 frets, it becomes an A chord, and our capo moves up 2 frets to compensate and make those open strings work with this new chord. With bar chords, the idea is the same, but now our index finger is becoming a bit of a capo. As you're playing these bar chords, you'll probably find that this part of your finger is difficult to get these high notes to come out, and you may be getting that clicking sound. This is normal and will just take some time as you practice these bar chords. Eventually it will come. There are a couple of minor adjustments that you can make to help these notes come out. The first thing you can do when you're learning is practice the bar chords higher up on the neck. The frets are a little bit closer together, so that makes it a little bit easier to get the fingers all in the right spot. As you're playing these chords, you really want to make sure that this middle finger has a good curl around to it and is really playing with the fingertip. Otherwise, it's going to get in the way of these higher strings and mute them out. You can also try adjusting your thumb placement on the back of the neck. You don't want it to be up too high because that's going to make it really difficult to play. You want it to stay down low, somewhere around the middle of the neck. And you may find that if you turn it slightly and play a little bit more on the side of your thumb, you may find that angle is a little bit better. The same thing might be true of your index finger. You can try playing with the angle slightly on your finger. Instead of having it laying completely flat, you can try using the edge of your finger a little bit more. It's more of a harder, bonier part of your finger. You may find it easier to hold down the strings. You can also break the bar chord up and play sections of it at a time and try and add more to it as you're comfortable. Start with taking your ring finger and your pinky out of the equation. And maybe even move your index finger down and just try and get those highest 3 strings. Once you can play those, try moving your index finger up and playing that string. Now don't worry about the chord that you're actually making there. We're just trying to get the index finger used to laying flat and holding down more than one note. Once you have that, move the index finger up 1 more. and finally up to that low E string. You can also adjust your wrist angle. You may find that if you bring your wrist out a little bit more, you may be able to get your finger a little bit flat, or maybe it needs to be pulled in a little bit further. And finally, you can also adjust the angle of your elbow. You can bring the elbow in or away from your body in order to change the angle of your fingers. Initially, these bar chords will feel really uncomfortable, and you may feel like you're really contorting your body in order to make the chord. Don't worry about that too much. After a while, it'll become more natural and it'll be easier to play. As I mentioned, bar chords are very difficult to play and can be very frustrating. Don't expect that you're going to be able to do these right away. They will take some time and some effort to do properly. You may feel like you'll never be able to play these, but just slow down, take your time, and just work at it for a few minutes at a time. If you work at it on a daily basis, eventually it will come and it'll be a lot easier and you won't have any trouble with these chords at all.